Bienvenidos and welcome back to Puro Pinche Gol, the place we discuss all things USMNT y la selección mexicana. My name is Adrian, being joined again by my fellow co-host Tocayo, Adrian. Now that we're back from a weeks-long sabbatical at the beach, man, how you doing, bro?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm doing all right. Thankful for being back in the land of the free, home of the brave, back in America. Um, and I'm also very happy that I was able to spend a few days with you down there in Mexico at the beach, partying it up for your bachelor. So it's nice to be back. Thankful for being here with you, and I'm ready to get started.
Yeah, man, definitely a good time, well deserved, and ready to get back 100% into it with PPG Nation. Thanks to all you guys, our listeners that stuck with us during that week and a half that we weren't really active, but now we're back stronger than ever, and going to be posting consistently again as we continue with this Gold Cup in this summer of crazy transfer rumors and just a lot of news for USMNT and Mexico. Adrian, man, we were watching the Gold Cup group stage down there at the hotel, keeping up what was going on. We're really up to date of what happened. With that Qatar match, kind of soured that day for us there at the beach. But
Yeah.
this is going to be kind of our Gold Cup group recap episode. The last time we talked to PPG Nation, we had kind of done our reactions video of the USMNT's first game against Jamaica and Mexico's first game against who they play. The first one, Honduras. Yeah, right? It was
Yes,
against
Honduras.
Honduras. Yeah. So
Mhm.
now we're going to be kind of going in and kind of reviewing the Gold Cup group stage for both teams, how they did, how did our predictions do during our prediction episode, and kind of just reviewing quarterfinal opponents and our predictions for the quarterfinal. Let's get into it, man. Obviously, Gold Cup group stage has come to a close. You want to run it down for our listeners here, man? How the groups shook up here?
Sure. Alrighty. So for Group A, we had USA and Jamaica taking the first and second spot. The USA had two wins and one draw. The one draw against Jamaica, goal difference of 12, which is actually huge. Two back-to-back 6-0 games. Group B, it's Mexico and Qatar. Mexico taking the first spot, Qatar taking the second spot. Mexico shows up to the quarterfinals with two wins and one loss. That's our loss against Qatar, while Qatar had 1-1-1. So one win, one draw, and one loss during the group stage. Group C, we have Panama and Costa Rica. Panama taking the first spot, Costa Rica taking the second spot. Panama looking just all right during this group stage. Costa Rica looking rough, definitely. Having one win, one draw, and one loss. Panama shows up with two wins and one draw. And lastly, we have Group D, where Guatemala took the first spot, something that I wasn't expecting. I don't think anyone was expecting this. And Canada showing a poor display of football in general, man. Struggling so bad on this group stage. Canada shows up with one win, two draws, and Guatemala does show up with two wins and one draw.
Yep. Post-mortem, RIP to Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts, Honduras, Haiti, El Salvador, Martinique, Guadalupe, and Cuba. Thanks for playing, GG's, but didn't cut it and are knocked out, leaving us to these final eight for the quarterfinals.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian, during our predictions episode, I think we did pretty decent, man. I mean, we kind of predicted
Yeah.
Group A to shake out how it did shake out. USA topping and Jamaica in second. I think I had said I thought USA was going to have all 9 points, but we did mention how we thought Jamaica was going to be a dark horse, so that tie
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as bad as other results that we saw from other bigger teams. Mexico, I
Yeah.
think you had Qatar going through with Mexico. I had Honduras, so props to you. You got that one. I didn't think any of us thought Qatar was going to beat Mexico though,
Yeah.
so
No.
that was a crazy one. Panama and Costa Rica, I think we pretty much said 100% that one that we thought that was going to
Mm-hmm.
be the order. And we had Guatemala and Canada going through, but we had them flip flop. So we had Canada going through as
Exactly.
first and Guatemala going through as second, which ultimately ended up flip flopping, which was ultimately very hard to predict. Next round matchups, we start on Saturday, July 8th, with the first match being Panama versus Qatar, followed by Mexico versus Costa Rica. And
Mm-hmm.
then the quarterfinals conclude on Sunday, where we start with Guatemala versus Jamaica and USA versus Canada. Before we give our predictions of quarterfinals, let's kind of talk USA and Mexico, man. Starting with USA, what did we see in this Gold Cup group stage? Um, Other than between game one and game three, and how do we see them kind of shaking out to this upcoming match? USA, man, Jesus Ferreira, probably the biggest talking point going
Yeah.
into the quarterfinals.
Uh-huh.
Somebody that's been heavily criticized for his performance at the World Cup, that match against Netherlands, where he had a horrible first half, but somebody that has two back-to-back hat tricks. And I think he's the only one other than Landon Donovan that has like two hat tricks or back-to-back. Can't remember what the exact stat was.
Yeah.
Um, what does this all mean, man? What context should we add to this, if any?
I mean, I know that a lot of the USMNT fans, maybe not the hardcore USMNT fans, and trigger alert for sure. There are gonna be some people getting sensitive of me, by me not calling them a hardcore USMNT fan. Uh, but I think everyone's getting excited about Jesus Ferreira scoring back-to-back hat tricks and becoming the first, I don't know in how many years, player to have more than I think 10 goals in Gold Cup.
Yeah.
Something like that. But to me, it's like let's put things into perspective, right? To provide some context on Jesus Ferreira rise into the baller he is right now. He has scored what the total of this two, three, seven, eight, like 14 goals with the USMNT.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at his goal tally with the USMNT, all of them have been scored against, some small island or a Central American team. The
Right.
only challenging opposition that he has scored against has been Mexico, and that happened this year during the Intercontinental Clásico. But the other ones is, he scored two against Trinidad and Tobago in 2021, one against Panama in 2022. He scored 4 goals against Grenada in 2022 during the CONCACAF Nations League A, against Group A. He scored three against St. Kitts and Nevis on this Gold Cup, and then three more against Trinidad and Tobago on this same Gold Cup. So listen. I'm not trying to say that he's a bad soccer player. What I'm trying to say is don't buy the hype, right? He shows strong against small teams. Let's see how he faces against, tougher opposition. Now, granted, this is CONCACAF, so the toughest opposition that he can get is Canada, Mexico, and maybe Panama as of right
Mm-hmm.
now. Uh, and so we shall see if he rises up to the challenge, if he's able to compete against those tougher oppositions, if he's able to compete against Mexico's European legion of center backs and defenders. Let's see if he can withstand the same level of competition against MLS based center backs from Canada. So I mean, we shall see. I still think that he's definitely not, a top choice on the pecking order for the USMNT. I assume he was chosen because he's an MLS based player, and we know that this Gold Cup roster has a lot of MLS players. So yeah, I mean, nothing against Jesus Ferreira. Just want to be clear. Uh, but come on, man. Let's put some brakes on this hype train.
Yeah, definitely nothing against Jesus Ferreira. You play against who's in front of you, right? You perform against who's in front
Exactly.
of you. It's not his fault that he's playing not the best opposition. It's funny because while we were during the break, the nickname that appeared for him was the Pirate of the Caribbean because he just scores against Caribbean nations. Um, but yeah, I mean, like we said, he don't buy the hype yet. Because we saw
Hmm.
him against Jamaica. He was pretty bad that match.
Yeah.
It took Brandonvazquez coming in and scoring in the 80th minute for USA to tie. So even against the dark horse in Jamaica for this Gold Cup, he didn't do spectacular. It was against St. Kitts and Trinidad where he went off. Again, props to him for going off. You play who you play, but yeah, let's definitely pause on the hype train, I think, and let's see how it goes and carries forward in these upcoming matches where he's going to be facing harder opposition. Um, where do you think he ranks on the pecking order for USMNT now? I think there's a substantial gap
Oof.
between Balogun
Yeah.
and Pepe, and then the next. the third in line, right?
Yeah.
And they obviously didn't bring Pfok or Sargent or any of those guys. So where does he compare to those guys?
Yeah, it's this is a tough topic, man, and we can probably make an episode just to discuss this specific issue, right? I honestly don't think he's the top five on the pecking order. I think, as you mentioned, I completely agree with you. As of right now, as of today, Folarin Balogun and Pepe are essentially, three steps ahead of the likes of George Sargent, Jordan
Hmm.
Pfok, Haji Wright, all of those names, right? And in that specific order, Josh Sargent, Haji Wright, and Jordan Pfok to me are ahead of Jesus Ferreira. Now you can make the argument that maybe Jesus Ferreira is in better form
Hmm.
than Jordan Pfok, but man, come on, Jesus Ferreira plays he plays on MLS. Even if Jordan Pfok is only training day in and out, and he only plays the Bundesliga Cup, right, the DFB Pokal, he's in better. He's facing tougher defenders just by playing every now and then. So to me, he's definitely not a top. He shouldn't be a top five uh, striker for the USMNT. Like I think they should just be calling him on those for those matches that you are unable to call European based players.
Hmm.
For all Juegos Moleros, but for all I care, I mean, I think his, I mean, Jesus Ferreira shouldn't necessarily be, on the top of Triple G's mind whenever he comes back.
And that's not saying that that's forever. I mean, if he's still super
Uh huh.
young, if he moves to Europe, I
Yeah.
mean, he'll develop even better. I mean,
Yeah.
so we're all for it.
Exactly.
Move to Europe, Ferreira, and prove yourself.
Show
I
us.
think
Yeah.
you definitely do have
Exactly.
talent. So
Hmm.
yeah, moving on from Jesus Ferreira, other goal scorers for the USMNT here. Brandonvazquez, he scored against Jamaica and he scored against Trinidad and Tobago. He has 2 goals.
Hmm.
Jordi Mihailovic has 2 goals against St. Kitts. Brian Reynolds, he scored against St. Kitts. Kate Cowell, El Caballo Cowell scored against Trinidad and Tobago. Gianluca Bustio scored against Trinidad and Tobago. So all in all, between Ferreira, Vasquez, Mihailovic, Reynolds, Cowell, and Busio, 6 different goal scorers here for the USMNT in 3 games. Um, Obviously, Trinidad and Tobago and St. Kitts were not really a challenging sides for the USMNT, even for this B
Yeah.
team. Uh, B team that's easily steamrolled through this group. Jamaica proved
Hmm.
that a heavy MLS roster in the USMNT might not be enough to win it all, man. Jamaica has a very European based team with some
Hmm.
MLS guys. I know Blake, the goalie, he's been fantastic for Jamaica. But they have a lot of players that play in the Championship or the Third Division of England or Scotland or over there in Europe. So a dark horse, how we predicted, and they really did show that. I think they were the better team against the USMNT that whole match.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
so is an MLS roster enough for the USMNT to win this tournament? It was 2 years ago. I don't know if it will be this time. Luckily for the USMNT, Canada's been pretty bad. Mexico, we saw them against Qatar, has been bad. So
Yeah.
their biggest challenge might actually be the Jamaica team that they can end up maybe meeting in the final, depending on what happens.
Yeah.
Um, there was a lot to discuss here in the last 2 matches that we didn't cover. Kind of Kate Cal, Sendejas. Sendejas hasn't been at his best form here this
Yeah.
Gold Cup
It's
at
been
all.
weird.
Yeah,
Hmm.
one of the players that has performed really well in the last couple seasons in ligamx for America has struggled here with the B team. Someone that's kind of on the
Hmm.
fringe between the B team and the A team. Um,
Yeah.
and what can we say about Kid Cal? He got a goal. He's been performing, I think, better than Sendejas, but also hasn't been to the kind of level that we've expected of him. Um, I don't know, man. What are your thoughts so far on these 3 matches? Kind of like resumen summary.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think it's we're starting to see if Sendejas it might be a fit for if he has what it takes to be a sub on the A team, or if he's just a starter for the B team. He hasn't had even though the USMNT demolished the last 2 games. I don't think he was any relevant or has had any significance on those matches. I think I can make the argument that KK will show more grit and more willingness to prove himself out there. When he showed up against Jamaica, he did a good job. He was actually putting a lot of pressure and running up the pitch, uh, trying to look dangerous for the USMNT. And on the other two matches, I mean, on the one he started, I know it was Saint Kitts and Nevis, but he was very participative. He was always open and available to provide, that specific scape on the offensive for the USMNT. So I think if I was bjcallaghan, I would probably just give K Cowell a chance to start in the next few matches, just to see, if it makes sense. And so those are my 2 points on Sendejas and Kate Cowell. Another thing that I want to mention is I'm just glad that he dropped Aaron Long. Aaron Long sucked ass. He was
Yeah.
bad against Jamaica. I'm not too sure why they keep on calling him up. He must be a favorite of the coaches, but to be completely clear, there's plenty of other center backs in MLS and on European base that can definitely take Aaron
Hmm.
Long's spot. So I don't really understand why. I don't really understand why they keep on calling him. I don't really get why he keeps on starting. I'm glad that he's not starting on the Gold Cup anymore. I'm glad that he was benched against the St. Kitts and Nevis and Trinidad and Tobago. He shouldn't be playing anymore for the USMNT. I don't get it. He's not quick. He's super slow. He's not technically gifted. Maybe you can argue his physicalness, but tell me, man, are there any other center backs in the roster or in the pool of players that can actually have a better performance, a better form than Aaron Long?
I mean, you brought up his physicalness. All the other center backs are equally or more physical. Miazga's bulkier, maybe the same height or taller. Robinson, Jalen Neal, though probably a little thinner, he's just as tall and physical and young, and he's been performing well as his
Hmm.
replacement for those two matches. Yeah, I'm glad that they've benched him. I think the team looked a lot better without him in the
Yeah.
lineup, and I really
Hmm.
think the lineup that BJ Callahan put out against. The St. Kitts, it's probably the lineup that best performed, even though they tied 6-0 to Trinidad as well, or won 6-0 against Trinidad as well. I really liked that lineup between Miazga and Neal in the back, or Robinson and Neal. Both of them worked out. But I liked the front three that he had at Cal, Ferreira, Sendejas, and behind them was kind of Mihailovic and Bucio. I think that was very uh, for the game against Trinidad and Tobago, he started as one of the forwards, Christian Roland. So you're just like, I
Why?
don't know.
Why?
Yeah, that's another one that he had a very poor game. He was one that we kind of criticized for his inclusion in the squad for
Hmm.
this. Someone that even himself said, "What am I doing? Not what am I doing here, but like, what's my role here?" So he was as confused as us. So I don't know, man. But yeah, I agree. Again, nothing against MLS. There's a lot of decent players here. A lot of good, like Miles Robinson, who's a starter, maybe even for the A team, right?
Hmm.
Zimmerman. There's MLS has produced some great players, but it's just that these specific players are some that we're left scratching our heads, wondering
Exactly.
um, why do they constantly get called up? Um, Speaking of the team and a couple updates to the team before the quarterfinal starts, Alan Sonora was injured and he was replaced by San Jose Earthquakes Jackson UEL. I know this was kind of another head scratcher. This guy racked up 19 appearances under Triple G, but he's really never stood out or made an impact for the USMNT, at least in my opinion. He hasn't even been playing particularly well this season in MLS, so that was kind of I don't know why we brought him. And Aiden Morris has left the camp due to personal reasons, so those were kind of the big changes between the Gold Cup group stage and the Gold Cup quarterfinals. Um, so, as we mentioned before, next match for USMNT will be against Canada, a mediocre Canada team, a team that's not only struggling
Hmm.
in the field of the Gold Cup. To be fair, they brought their B team, but also they're struggling financially. The Canada Football Federation might be going down the drain. That's a topic for another video. We don't really cover Canada
Yeah,
here,
no.
but it's just crazy to think that as soon as they start hitting their stride with their golden generation, they're having financial and maybe bankrupt issues. But how did Canada get to qualify here and play against USMNT? The first match 2-2 draw versus Guadalupe. They tied 0-0 the second match against Guatemala, and they beat Cuba 4-2 on the final match day of the group stage in order to qualify for this match. And as we mentioned, USA tied 1-1 Jamaica, beat St. Kitts and Trinidad 6-0 and 6-0. Adrian, this is B Team USA, B Team Canada. Obviously,
Hmm.
we know the ruthlessness of the Canada A team. Though they were in a very difficult World Cup group, they performed well against Belgium. We've seen them during qualifying do well, but I don't think they have that depthness that the USA has in terms of
Yeah.
having as quality B team. What are your predictions for this matchup, man?
I think Canada keeps on getting a reality check. They have been getting reality checks since Qatar. So why not continue it, right? I think they're gonna lose. I think the USMNT is gonna win. 3-1, maybe. It's not gonna. It doesn't mean that it's gonna be an easy match for the USMNT. It just means that I think at some point in time, the Canada is gonna say screw it, go Hail Mary and see if we can tie the match, and the USMNT is just gonna capitalize on that lack of coverage on the back. So yeah, tough luck for Canada, but that's what you get.
Yeah, I also feel that they've been getting a lot of poor guys reality checks since Qatar, but I see I see it as a 2-1. I don't know. I think the USA might struggle a little bit early on just because they're kind of have been really like calm and really casual these last two games, winning
Hmm.
6-0, 6-0. They're probably in that mentality that like, oh man, this opposition hasn't been great, and maybe it's switched off a little bit.
Hmm.
So hopefully they're able to switch on and win. I think they'll win, but it might just take them. They might start off a little slow, and the game might be a little scrappy there in the beginning, just messy. Um, but yeah, let's get into la selección mexicana. Um, Mexico, Diego Coca got sacked right before the tournament, got replaced by
Hmm.
Jimmy Lozano. There was a dramatic change in how the team is viewed, how the fans are viewing the team, how the media is viewing the team, how the team itself is playing and viewing itself with Jimmy Lozano at the helm. I think he brought back a that pride, being
Yeah.
a past player himself, being Mexican himself. He kind of connects with the fans, kind of connects with the team more. I feel, and you saw that in the first two games for sure.
Hmm.
But there was also hints of that Diego Coca performances coming through. I think, granted, they were overshadowed, but what did you see really those first two games from Mexico, without really going into the game against Qatar, because that we'll get into that one for sure. But what were some struggles that were kind of overshadowed by the two wins for Jimmy?
Yeah. This is a great question, man, because I think that all this hype, and I wanna preface with the same approach that I had to Jesus Ferreira. Is let's put up a good break on the hype train for El Lamborghini. Um, I think all this euphoria that was built up with Jimmy jumping in, Coca going out, and the players having a change in personality and attitude and whatnot. And these two early matches where Mexico was dominant, right, in the score, and also during the match, overshadow one specific key aspect that keeps on coming back, even though Diego Coca is gone. If you pay really close attention on the transitions between offensive to defense for Mexico, you will realize that Mexico struggles severely when defending without the ball and then running towards their goal. You can see, the wingers, and more specifically the left back and the right back, struggling significantly trying to catch up to the opposition whenever they face on a counter attack. They are great, all of them, Jorge Sanchez, Julian Araujo, Gerardo Arteaga, Jesus Gallardo, all of these players are great at offensive transitions. So breaking from, stealing the ball and moving towards the last two-thirds of the opposition pitch. They are great at that specific motion. But when it comes to, hey, you lose the ball and you have to come back, they struggle severely. Not only because they're not fast enough, it's just that they lose complete understanding of their role, defensively speaking. And so they find themselves, making fouls at the middle of the pitch, where unnecessary fouls that you don't have to be making if you're properly positioned, uh, based on how the team is moving forward, right? So I saw a lot of those issues throughout the first two matches. They got overshadowed because Mexico had a good score, so that they went ahead and pretty much you can say they destroyed the two early matches, but no one paid attention to those deficiencies. And
Right.
with Qatar, you were able to spot those right there and then. It was easy to see how the midfield and the defense were not having a good day against the quick pace of the Qatari side.
Yeah, I think people were still under the euphoria of we got rid of the Ococa, win with Jimmy Lozano. We won back to back games. Um,
Hmm.
they didn't realize. Yeah, I mean, Mexico, Qatar was just a glimpse of what Jamaica's going to bring, and Jamaica's on the bracket side of Mexico. So, assuming Mexico beats Costa Rica, they'll most likely meet Jamaica in the semifinals.
Yeah.
A Jamaican side that has a lot of speed, just like that we saw with that counterattack on for Qatar. Right, their one attack on target,
Hmm.
their one chance, and they scored it. Fantastic chance, great effort on
Hmm.
that. Maybe Memo could have saved that, maybe not, but he didn't. But it just I think the speed, the explosiveness is what, like you said, what really hurts this team. And it doesn't
The
matter who's
physicality as well.
yeah, it doesn't matter really who starts back there for on the wings for Mexico. You know, if you have Jorge Sanchez, Gallardo, what's his name, Julian Araujo,
Arteaga.
all of the Artiaga, all of them struggled um, defending. It was just more of a they're good at reading the plays going up, and whenever it's a direct attack against them, they're decent. But when it's a non-direct, quick counter, switch of the field, it's where we really see Mexico struggling. And how would you rate the center backs, man? We're talking a lot about the left and
Yeah.
right backs, but what do you think? How did these guys do?
So I think Johan Vasquez in general did all right. He has proven to be, if not perhaps the best center back for the entire Gold Cup right now. Unfortunately, Cervantes was completely out because of this sanctions that he got imposed after the USMNT semifinal match. But man, Israel Reyes is not necessarily taking advantage of Cesar Montes being sidelined. Israel Reyes looked rough out there, man. Again, the first two matches overshadow his deficiencies in terms of physicality and being able to catch up to the opposition during counterattacks. He isn't necessarily slow, but I don't think he is fast enough or physical enough to just rise up to the challenge and fight. Against the strikers and wingers of the other teams. If you pay close attention, they're also struggling like communication between both center backs. You will see that they were not necessarily doing good ladder step ups for each other, and you just could see that they're not necessarily comfortable playing one another. So I think Israel Reyes it's a good sub for Cesar Montes, but he keeps on proving or shouting to everyone that Cesar Montes has to be the starting center back for eltri.
Yeah, I think other than Israel Reyes, two other players that really did not take advantage of their opportunities. Arteaga, as we discussed, and El
Yeah,
Bebote Santiago Jimenez.
I,
Um,
dude.
both
Yeah.
who, yeah, just left us with the what's going on here. You're playing below par opposition, and you're not able to really make this position yours. Arteaga, obviously, we kind of discussed already. Was being beat a lot by his man. Was unable to really cover in transition. But Santi Jimenez on the other side of the field as a forward, where Mexico really does not have a lot of competition right now in that position. So
Hmm.
it's open for somebody to come in and make that their starting spot, right?
Yeah.
What do you think has made him struggle so much against these smaller teams that we only saw him score what was it, one goal against Haiti, and
Yes.
that was it.
Uh-huh. So I'm not too sure what's going on. I don't think it's a matter of him having poor form or not necessarily having the technique necessary. I think he has been there. He has the ability to finish the plays, right? He's been there when he has to. he has shown up to the play to finish it up, and he's we're supposed to be at every single time. Is that last touch that he's not necessarily doing a good job on. I think I think this is a mental situation. I think he's getting a lot of pressure from the media, from the fans, from everything outside of eltri, that he's supposed to be the hair of this specific position, right? Nothing against Henry Martin. We all know that he had an outstanding season with America last season in ligamx, but we all know that Santi Jimenez El Bebote, he is the next one to take care of that number 9 position in el 3. So I just feel that he's having a mental obstacle where he's unable to break it and feel relaxed. You can see that you can see him anxious, dude. I mean, if you pay attention to his movements and the way that he shows up on the box, you
Yeah.
can feel that you can see that he's just anxious and pressured to score a goal. And I think that is what's making him think. Well, making him overthink how to finish the plays. Um, and I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't see him as you see him in Feyenoord, where he doesn't really have that much pressure over his shoulders. That he's able to pretty much just float around the box and use his physicalness to open up spaces for his teammates. But with El 3, I think that he just feels. He feels that he needs to be performing every single match. Otherwise, he's not living up to the hype.
That's interesting, man, because I agree with you to an extent, but I also, from what I've been seeing on comments and social media, etc., um, I feel that the Mexican fan base is very patient with El Bebote, just because he was such a good goal scorer this past season in Europe. He's
Hmm.
young. He's the future. The fans know that he's the future. They appreciate him. Um, and he just, I don't know. I don't see Henry Martin getting that type of treatment after if he were to perform three stinkers or any other forward. But at the same time, you look at him and you look at why he's not scoring. Maybe is it? Do you think it has to do with the who he has around him? I mean, because you look at the midfield of Luis
It,
Chavez, Romo, Sanchez, Eric Sanchez, and then on playing on his right and left, you have Pineda and Antuna usually, right? Um, are they
mhm.
missing that Chucky Lozano, that more attacking-minded creativity player, or do you think it's just that?
Well,
I mean, Mexico doesn't even have anybody to replace right now.
it's not. I mean, it's not a lie, or it's not necessarily something that we haven't covered. That Oriel Antuna sucks ass on the last third of the pitch. Right, he makes almost every single time the wrong decision. If he needs to, if he needs to cross the ball, he freaking does another dribble. If he needs to dribble, he crosses the ball. Right, so I don't
Right.
think. I feel that this is a compliment to the situation that Belbote is going through right now. I don't think his wingers are necessarily putting him or setting him up for success. And going back to the fans comment, that's what I meant. Is this pressure isn't because of the fans piling up on him. It's because of the fans having so much hope that he's going to be the next
Gotcha,
one
gotcha.
in line, that he
Mm,
feels that pressure, man. That's what I
mm.
meant.
Doesn't want to let them down.
Exactly. But going back to the support that he has on the wings, I mean, it's Uriel Antuna, and unfortunately, Orbelin Pineda hasn't been too hot on the Gold Cup as well. Um,
Right.
and so here's the thing: is that on the game against Qatar, you saw a plenty amount of crosses, right? But none of
Hmm.
them were directed or specifically allowing Belbebote to be an advantage against the opposition, right?
Yeah.
So it is a combination of things. Is on Feyenoord, he has better players that are, I guess, suited to his style and his physical prowess. But with Mexico, is man, you have Uriel Antuna, and it doesn't get better.
Right. Before we kind of move on to who Mexico's playing next, and
Uh-huh.
I kind of want to talk about Luis Chavez, man. Somebody that is kind of still living off
Oof.
of his performance against Saudi Arabia in the
Yeah.
World Cup, and has really
Hmm.
been not. spectacular for Mexico. Is he? How do you rate his performance in this Gold Cup? And do you think he can
Oof.
find his peak again?
Ah,
Or have you
this is a
have you even thought that he's been playing bad?
this is a great topic of conversation, man, and thank you so much for bringing it up. I think he has been way below par on on his performance and form. Um, I think he's also a victim of the good first scores that Mexico was able to build up on those first two matches, and I totally agree with you. I think he's one of those players that he keeps on living with that golazo that he scored against Saudi Arabia. Um, but other than that, all of his performances have been below decent, dude. He hasn't been a driver or a significant contributor to the team, even though on those first two matches I've seen him more lost on the pitch than actually driving the offensive. On those transitions, you see him commit, I mean, again, making some poor choices on the midfield, defensively speaking, committing faults that aren't necessarily a like, you don't really need them, right? There's a thing called tactical foul where you stop the play of the opposition, but he has been making the wrong decisions even on those tactical fouls.
Hmm.
He's not in good form. He just isn't. I think I'm not sure if he's too worried about trying to make a move to Europe that he's not necessarily paying attention, um, or the tally of matches is just has caught up with him, right? Because he's been playing almost nonstop uh, between November of last year till today. So
Yeah. And we kind of saw that definitely against Qatar, where
yeah,
he played a little better up Qatar, better opposition than Honduras and Haiti. But in a game where they had 25 chances, I can't remember 25 shots. I cannot remember one of those shots really troubling the goalie, man. They were
yeah,
maybe just shots
right.
from outside the box straight to the goalie, or rebounded off. I do not remember for the life of me a chance that I was like, oh my god, that's almost a goal. So 25 shots to Qatar's one. Um, could we blame Luis Chavez for that? The lack of creativity there in the midfield, maybe. I mean, I think it was a lot of items that went wrong for Mexico that are to blame here. But definitely, he's one
Yeah.
of the players that Mexico is going to need to step it up if they want a chance to win this World Gold Cup. Because at the how they're playing right now, even though they have the majority of their A team, and we said they were favorites to start the tournament, I do not know if they're favorites anymore. Because they are not really performing too well. The what was it called, luna de miel, the how do you say luna de
The
miel,
honeymoon.
honeymoon phase with Jimmy Lozano is starting to wear thin, and ending soon. So maybe it ended already with the Qatar results. So we'll see how the team performs here in the quarterfinals. Obviously,
Oh
Mexico
damn,
next
dude.
match next match for eltri will be against a mediocre Costa Rica team, a team who in the past 20 years I'd say has been probably among the big three of CONCACAF with the US, Costa Rica, Mexico, but
Hmm.
is kind of in the transitional phase. Their old guard, their golden generation is pretty much out or being phased out, and they have an older
Hmm.
Joel Cambo kind of leading the line. Not the Costa Rica of old, but then again, right now neither is Mexico. Costa Rica, in order to qualify here, beat Panama lost to Panama 2-1. They drew El Salvador 0-0, and they beat Martinica 6-4. Mexico, obviously, to get here, beat Honduras 4-0, beat Haiti 3-1, and lost to Qatar 1-0. Um, what do you predict for this match against Costa Rica? Costa Rica team that always give Mexico hell. Do you think they'll put up a fight against this, or do you see Mexico maybe waking up and steamrolling Costa Rica through and getting to the semifinals?
Oof, man. I mean, it's geez. If Mexico would have won against Qatar, pretty much walking, I would have said yes. They're gonna steamroll over Costa Rica, but I see this as a tough match. Even though Costa Rica is not necessarily hot right now, and is having plenty of struggles. Um, I see Mexico moving on, but I don't see them having a strong display against Costa Rica. I think they're gonna keep on struggling, and I really hope that El Jimmy Lozano starts settling down on who are his starting 11 players, right? Because we saw a huge rotation against Qatar, a significant smaller rotation against so it was Honduras and then IT, a small rotation against IT, and then huge one for Qatar. So I really hope that he goes back to those players that had good performance and are in decent form right now. I do see Mexico advancing to the semifinals, and from the semifinals above, it's all up in the air.
Is a question for you. I don't know if you know this, but Cesar Montes' suspension is over, right? He should be eligible.
Yeah, uh huh. He
Oh,
should be
that's a
able to play against Costa
big
Rica.
help.
Uh huh. Because he
Yeah,
got 4 matches for suspension, and I think the match against
first
Panama
one.
counted as one. Yeah. Uh
Hmm.
huh.
Okay, so
So
that'll be a big help, for sure.
yeah.
Because of that, I think Mexico wins 2-0, maybe 3-0. I just I see the center backs too strong for what Costa Rica has going forward right now. I don't think they'll
Yeah.
score. So yeah, I again up in the air after that, especially if they have to play Jamaica. But we'll get there and give our predictions when we get to the semifinals. Adrian, man,
Hmm.
it's been good talking with you about this, brother. Before we take off, where can our listeners find us, dude?
Dude, you can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notifications. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast on. Last but not least, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Puro Pinche Gol. We post stuff every now and then. And I want to do a public service announcement. We are having a giveaway. Please go check out our giveaway video, which we should be uploaded on our channel as well. Pay close attention on our Instagram account because we're going to be reminding you guys about the giveaway. But I just want to remind you, you have to subscribe to the channel and you have to make a comment on the giveaway video. All right. If you post comments in this video or in the future ones between now and the end of the Gold Cup, they're not going to count. You have to go to the giveaway video to make a comment and be a subscriber of the channel.
They'll count. We'll respond to them, but they won't count for the giveaway, right? We always love to listen to y'all's
Exactly.
comments and read y'all's comments.
Yes.
So if you have comments
Uh
about
huh.
this video, comment on this video here for sure. But for
Hmm.
the giveaway, comment on the giveaway video that you're interested, you want to enter, who your favorite team is between USA and Mexico, or which jersey you prefer to win if you win, and who your favorite player, past or present, is for either USA or Mexico. But yeah, make sure you comment there. Make sure you comment here. We love discussing with you guys in the comment. And we'll leave a link to the giveaway video in our description below, and we'll link it at the end of this video as a clickable image there on the video. Adrian, man, good to get back in the rolling, in the steam of things here, man. Making some more
Yes, sir.
videos here on Puro Pinche Gol, PPG Nation. Appreciate the patience with us as we were out for a week. Glad to be back, and we'll see you in the next one, man.
Take it easy, my friend. Always a pleasure.
Likewise. See you, dude.
Bye.